Sonny Hostin slams Piers Morgan. His obsession with Meghan is his own fragility. Welcome to C News, where we say what everyone else is thinking. You've heard the noise. You've seen the headlines. And if you've been anywhere near a television, a newspaper, or, heaven help you, Piers Morgan's Twitter feed, you already know that some people just can't let go. Yes, we're looking at you, Piers. It's been years. She ghosted you. Move on. But let's be real. Why would he move on when dragging Meghan Markle is his full-time hobby? Some people collect stamps, others knit, but Piers, he collects bitter tweets and unhinged rants about a woman who hasn't acknowledged his existence since she figured out what he was all about. It's like watching someone shout into the void, hoping the void will text back. Spoiler, it won't. That's where C News comes in. We're here to cut through the nonsense, call out the ridiculous, and deliver the spiciest, wittiest takes on all the drama you didn't even know you needed. Royal scandals. We've got them. Celebrities who refuse to read the room. Oh, we're on it. And media personalities who just can't take the hint. Buckle up, because we have thoughts. So, if you're tired of the same old recycled outrage and desperate attention seekers clinging to relevance like it's the last lifeboat on the Titanic, you're in the right place. At C News, we're not just covering the story, we're saying what everyone else is too polite to say. And trust us, we're not holding back. For years, Piers Morgan has made it his personal mission to relentlessly attack Meghan Markle at every opportunity. His Twitter feed, television appearances, and newspaper columns are filled with criticisms, jabs, and outright hostility toward the Duchess of Sussex. But this time, he has found himself at the receiving end of a strong rebuke from none other than The View co-host Sonny Hostin, who did not hold back in calling out what many have long suspected, that Morgan's fixation on Meghan is less about her actions and more about his own deep-seated insecurities. Hostin, a respected legal analyst and television personality, has never been one to shy away from addressing uncomfortable truths. And when it comes to Morgan's ongoing attacks on Meghan, she made it clear that his behavior is rooted in something far more personal than mere journalistic scrutiny. On a recent episode of The View, she took the time to lay out exactly why Morgan's obsession with the Duchess is a reflection of his own fragility, pettiness, and inability to accept rejection. For those unfamiliar with Morgan's long-standing feud with Meghan, it traces back to a single evening years ago when the two crossed paths. Morgan has recounted this story numerous times, explaining how they struck up a friendship of sorts online, exchanged messages, and even met for drinks in London. But the night they met also happened to be the same evening Meghan later met Prince Harry at a private event. From that moment on, she seemingly cut off all communication with Morgan, never responding to his messages again. For most people, this would be a minor and forgettable incident. But for Piers Morgan, it became a lifelong grudge. He has since used every platform available to him to criticize Meghan, often in unprovoked and deeply personal ways. From questioning her sincerity to dismissing her struggles with mental health, Morgan has gone far beyond standard media commentary and entered the realm of outright obsession. Hostin, like many others, has watched this behavior unfold over the years, and she has had enough. During a segment discussing Morgan's latest tirade against Meghan, she pointedly asked why a grown man with a successful career is so fixated on tearing down a woman who simply chose not to engage with him. She called it what it truly is, fragile masculinity on full display. She went on to highlight the troubling pattern of Morgan's attacks, noting how his criticism of Meghan often carries undertones of racial and gendered bias. Hostin, a longtime advocate for racial justice, pointed out that Morgan's refusal to accept Meghan's truth, especially when she spoke about her struggles with racism within the royal family, was indicative of a deeper problem. Rather than engaging with her statements in good faith, Morgan dismissed them entirely, claiming she was lying without offering any real evidence. This pattern of silencing, gaslighting, and ridiculing a woman of color who dares to speak her truth is nothing new, Hostin argued. It is a classic example of how powerful men in media use their platforms to belittle and discredit women who refuse to conform to their expectations. And in Morgan's case, his inability to let go of the past reveals an uncomfortable truth. His ego was bruised, and instead of moving on, he has spent years lashing out. Hostin's take on the matter was met with widespread approval, with many viewers echoing her sentiments. Social media users pointed out how Morgan's obsession with Meghan has long crossed the line into something deeply personal and unsettling. Some even speculated that his bitterness stems from the fact that Meghan not only rejected his advances but went on to marry into one of the most powerful families in the world. Regardless of the underlying motivations, One thing remains clear. Piers Morgan's ongoing campaign against Meghan says far more about him than it does about her. While Meghan has built a new life with Harry, raising their children and focusing on the charitable work, Morgan remains stuck in the past, unable to let go of a perceived slight. Hostin's words serve as a reminder that powerful men like Morgan are often unwilling to confront their own insecurities. Instead, they project their frustrations onto women who refuse to play along. And in doing so, they expose their own fragility for the world to see. Piers Morgan needs to let Prince Harry and Meghan Markle be, especially Meghan. There are few people in the world more obsessed with Meghan Markle than Piers Morgan. His near-constant attacks on the Duchess of Sussex have spanned years, crossing the line from media commentary into something far more personal and, frankly, disturbing. Time and time again, he has used his newspaper columns, television appearances, and social media presence to unleash a relentless barrage of criticism, questioning her integrity, motives, and even her mental health. At this point, it has become clear that Morgan is not simply offering journalistic analysis, he is carrying out a personal vendetta. And it's time for him to let Meghan, and by extension Prince Harry, go. Morgan's fixation on Meghan Markle is one of the strangest and most unsettling dynamics in modern celebrity culture. It all stems from a single, inconsequential meeting years ago when the two briefly connected online and later met for drinks in London. Morgan has repeated this story endlessly, making it clear that he believed they had formed some kind of bond. But on that very night, Meghan met Prince Harry, and from that moment forward, she cut off all contact with Morgan. That should have been the end of it, a minor social interaction, nothing more, but for Morgan, it became a defining grievance. Ever since, he has dedicated an alarming amount of time and energy to attacking Meghan, as if her decision to remove him from her life was some unforgivable betrayal. It is a bizarre fixation, and one that speaks volumes about his own inability to accept rejection. Meghan did what millions of people do every day. She moved on from an acquaintance she had no interest in maintaining a connection with. Yet, Morgan has acted as though he has been personally wronged in a way that justifies years of public harassment. His criticism has not been limited to her public life or professional choices. Instead, it has taken on an almost obsessive, deeply personal nature. He has ridiculed her mental health struggles, mocked her claims of experiencing racism, and painted her as a manipulative figure who schemed her way into the royal family. Even after Harry and Meghan stepped away from royal duties and moved to California, Morgan has continued his relentless pursuit. One would think that if he truly believed they were irrelevant, as he so often claims, he would simply stop talking about them. But the reality is, he cannot. It is Meghan, in particular, who seems to occupy an unusual amount of space in Morgan's mind. He rarely focuses on Harry with the same intensity, and when he does, it is usually to paint him as weak or controlled by his wife. This framing is deliberate. It feeds into the outdated, misogynistic narrative that a woman must be blamed for a man's decisions. But Harry has made it abundantly clear that he is not some puppet of Meghan's. He is a man who made his own choices based on what he believed was best for his family. And yet, Morgan refuses to acknowledge this reality because it would require him to let go of the fantasy that Meghan is the villain in his personal soap opera. His refusal to move on is embarrassing. While Meghan and Harry have built